Hello everyone, and welcome back to Horrifying Tales. I know many of you use these videos to help you fall asleep, so before you drift off, it would be great if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Story 1. You're not going to believe me, but I need to tell someone. I've kept this to myself for too long, and it's been eating away at me. Maybe saying it out loud will finally make it feel real, or make it go away. This is the story of what happened when my family moved into a house that changed our lives forever. I wouldn't call it a haunted house, not in the traditional sense. There were no ghosts, no spirits floating through the halls. But the house, it was alive. It all started last year when we found the place. My wife, Emily, and I had been looking for a fresh start. We'd been through a tough couple of years. My dad had passed away, work had been stressful, and we needed a change. So, when we stumbled upon this house in a quiet little town, it felt like fate. It was perfect. A big old Victorian with plenty of room for us and our 2 kids, Lily and Ethan. The price was unbelievably low, and while it needed some work, we figured it was worth it. We imagined making memories there, hosting dinners, decorating for the holidays. It felt like a dream, but from the moment we moved in, something felt off. The first few days were filled with the usual chaos of unpacking, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But looking back, the signs were there. The air always felt a little too heavy, like the house was holding its breath, and it was quiet. Too quiet. Even the creaks and groans of the old wood floors seemed muffled, like the house was listening. The first night, I was lying in bed, too exhausted to sleep, when I heard it. A faint whisper. At first, I thought it was Emily talking in her sleep, but when I turned to look, she was sound asleep, her breathing steady. The whisper wasn't coming from her. It was coming from the wall. I told myself I was imagining things. It had been a long day, and I was probably just hearing the wind or the house settling. But the next night, it happened again, and this time, I could make out words. "Why did you leave me?" My blood ran cold. It was a woman's voice, soft and sad, coming from right behind my headboard. I sat up, heart pounding, and pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. The whisper was gone. The next morning, I didn't mention it to Emily. I didn't want to worry her, and honestly, I wasn't sure what I'd heard. But as the days went on, the whispers started happening more often, and not just in our bedroom. One night, I was in the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water, when I heard a child's voice. "Why didn't you save me?" I dropped the glass, and it shattered on the floor. The voice was coming from the wall near the pantry. I stood there, frozen, staring at the wall, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But again, the whisper was gone. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just my imagination. But then Emily started hearing them too. She came to me one night, pale and shaking, and said, "I heard something in the bathroom. A voice. It sounded like my dad." Her dad had passed away 2 years ago. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her she was imagining things, but I couldn't, because I'd heard the whispers too. Things escalated from there. Lily, our 8-year-old daughter, started waking up in the middle of the night, crying. She said she heard someone calling her name from the closet. Ethan, our 5-year-old, started talking to friends he claimed lived in the walls. At first, we thought it was just their imaginations. Kids make things up, right? But then Lily said something that made my stomach drop. She came to me one morning and said, "Daddy, the walls know your secret." I tried to play it off, but she looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes and said, "They told me." "What did they tell you?" I asked. my voice shaking. She hesitated, then whispered, "They said you're afraid you'll end up like Grandpa." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could she know that? I'd never told anyone, not even Emily, that I'd been terrified of falling into the same patterns as my dad. From that moment on, I knew this wasn't just in our heads. The house was alive, and it knew us. The whispers became more frequent, more personal. They didn't just speak. They accused. They taunted. They revealed things we'd buried deep inside ourselves. Emily confessed to me that she'd heard the walls mocking her for losing a baby before we had Lily and Ethan, a miscarriage she'd never shared with anyone. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a hammer and started tearing into the walls, desperate to find the source of the whispers. Emily begged me to stop, but I couldn't. I tore through the drywall, ripping it apart until my hands bled. And that's when I found it. Behind the walls were layers of old, yellowed newspaper clippings. They were stories about the previous owners of the house, stories of tragedy, betrayal, and loss. A husband who killed his wife in a fit of jealousy. A mother who drowned her children. A man who hanged himself in the attic. The house had absorbed it all, the pain, the fear, the secrets, and now it was feeding off ours. We tried to leave. Oh, how we tried. But every time we packed up and tried to drive away, something would happen. The car wouldn't start, or Ethan would get sick, or Lily would have a meltdown. It was like the house wouldn't let us go. The final straw came one night when I woke up to find Emily standing in the hallway, staring at the wall. Her eyes were glazed over, and she was whispering back to it. "Emily," I shouted, shaking her. She snapped out of it, but she didn't remember what she'd been saying. I knew then we couldn't stay another night. We left everything behind. Our furniture, our belongings, even the photos on the walls. We just grabbed the kids and ran. It's been a year since we left, and I still hear the whispers sometimes. In my dreams, in the quiet moments when I'm alone, they creep back in. We've tried to move on, but part of me wonders if you can ever really escape something like that. The house wasn't just alive, it was hungry. Hungry for fear, for secrets, for guilt. And it had enough from us to last a lifetime. So, if you ever come across a house that feels too perfect, too quiet, too still, trust your instincts. Some homes don't just hold memories. They hold on to you. And if you listen closely, you might just hear them whispering, "Run,